Hi, can you guys hear me? I'm going to take that as a yes. Okay, great. All right. My name is Joelle Godwin. I am a NOAA affiliate. That means I'm a contractor for NOAA. But I used to be a Fed with NOAA for NOAA Fisheries, yay, and write policy. So if you ever want to fall asleep, just open the Code of Federal Regulations and start reading about fish rules. I am presenting today on behalf of Sharon Mesick. She was not able to make it here, but she is the Regional Climate Science Director for the Southeast, and we work together on a project that hopefully you've gotten your little card about, which is this on your table. If you don't have one, I've got plenty more, and I'll be talking about Atlas 15 today. So when we're ready, let's see if we can advance some slides. All right, there I am, there we are. Our agenda is pretty short. We're gonna just go through a couple of things, but there is audience participation in this session in a way that we haven't done with any of the other sessions. And before we get going too far into it, I do wanna thank everybody's participation so far. It's been a wonderful conference. Thank you, Heather and Claire. Thank you to everybody else who sort of made this happen, the other speakers. The topics have been extremely relevant. I've taken notes like nobody's business, and I think what we are doing here today is important. So based on that, we're covering these states in the Southeast and Caribbean. And so what I'm talking about today is particularly relevant because in older iterations of Atlas, the Caribbean has not been included. How many of you have heard of Atlas 14? A few people? Okay, how many people in the audience who have heard of it work with it? Even fewer people. Okay, I'm going to explain what Atlas 14 is to sort of give you an update to what Atlas 15 is, so hopefully you can appreciate that. Atlas 14 is a system of data that's focused on extreme precipitation. And the data for Atlas 14 is old. What we're doing with 15 is providing an update to that data, and we really want to look at extreme precipitation impacts on several different areas: transportation, water resources, and underserved communities. And how the federal government defines those is one thing. I want you to think broadly about how we define those as well. For instance, transportation, somebody, I believe, mentioned from Environmental Justice, E.J. Strong, correct? And mentioned the early warning systems or emergency warning systems. When we think about extreme precipitation and we think about flooding, think about what that would mean for communities to have a warning system that says, hey, flooding is about to happen in your area. You don't have much time, but you have time enough to move your car. It may not impact where you live, but it may impact your car. And so being able to move your car out of the way or to move another form of transportation out of the way so that you're not impacted, especially if you're relying on that car to get to work and get to school, or to even just know of a different route to take. So we're thinking about very concrete applications of this product. Also for urban planners, I think I met a couple of those, and community leaders, officials, thinking about how we can interact with those. We're on the outreach pilot part of this phase. So if you see on your card right here, we're in the late 2024, early 2025 phase, where we are in the pilot section, and we're going to go through what the pilot website, which is open and available to everybody right now, looks like. The release of Atlas 15 comes over the next couple of years with final release, including the Caribbean and Pacific territories in 2027. So that's exciting. I don't know if I'm coordinated enough to do all this by myself, I'm just saying. All right. scroll, scroll, scroll. So, as I mentioned, Atlas 14 is the national precipitation frequency standards that's currently in existence. It has historical rainfall data and forecasts predict rainfall intensity and the flood risk. And these are used for state guidelines for planning, also for building codes, and designing infrastructure, and all the ways to mitigate flooding. Unfortunately, this data is old, and some of it almost 20 years old. So some of these dates that you'll see at the bottom are publication dates by volume. So you can see that the mid-Atlantic states were 2008. We've got Puerto Rico, also the southeastern states. So nothing very current, which is why the bipartisan infrastructure law said that we have to update and funded NOAA to update these, this tool so it has newer data. So what does that mean? I should stop here and say I live in Asheville, and I was working on this project before Helene, but it is incredibly relevant, and as somebody who lived through Helene and didn't have water or electricity or even communications for a long time, it is really making a difference to people. There's also already people in the Asheville area who are starting to recognize the importance of this data and to use it. All right, and then I've got some handy pictures here. First one on the left is Hurricane Helene in North Carolina. One of the left of the middle is a damaged sugarcane crop in Puerto Rico and that was following Hurricane Maria. Then the next image is rescuers who are delivering food and water to residents after Hurricane Maria, also in Puerto Rico. And the last one is Coral Bay in St. John, USVI, after Irma. So we're trying to avoid things, the impact of extreme precipitation, even if we can't avoid it itself. Okay. So with NOAA 15, because we're in the preliminary stages and the pilot stages, we're in this co-development phase where we can partner. We're trying to reach out. I know I've spoken to several of you, gotten several of your business cards. I'm interested in partnering with you after today's meeting in the future to do webinars and get the word out. A lot of the theme of this conference has been how do we communicate the tools and resources to communities who could use them, and how could they use them best for their communities. This is what we're talking about when we talk about Atlas 15. NOAA wants users to have the best possible data, and as the federal government is the authoritative data on this issue. It wants to build relationships, and that's one of the reasons they sent me to give this incredibly engaging speech. No shame. All right, so what's the difference between NOAA 14 and 15? And I think it's about to rain outside, which I did not coordinate it, but speaking of extreme precipitation, we already said that the NOAA Atlas 14 data is old. It uses historical data. In some spaces, it's almost 20 years old. In Atlas 15, there's 2 volumes. One is data up to 2023, and volume 2 actually uses climate change projections through 2100. So that's very exciting. The pilot is designed for NOAA to collect feedback, and I'll give you a website for you to do that later. I should mention that the pilot data is not available for official use until the entire Atlas 15 is rolled out in the beginning to middle of 2027, but that gives us a unique opportunity for feedback. And here's a handy graphic that's also on the card of that timeline, and you can see outlined as where we are sort of right now in this pilot phase. how are we rolling it out? Well, we're having the website, we go to conferences, National Weather Service, which is the author and the dataset holders and the builder of this tool, they are doing the same. They are going to AMS, they're going to other conferences and getting it out there. Our particular region in the Southeast and the Caribbean, we are trying to engage with people and learn about communities that can be using it and do more user-focused engagement, not just presenting, but also talking about, sitting at tables, doing demonstrations, and encouraging people to provide feedback that will be sent back to NOAA. At this point, I would like you to flip over the piece of paper on your table, and yes, this is the interactive part. It is a questionnaire, yes it is, but it is a very short and simple questionnaire. I would love your name and your email so I could report back the data that we collect here as far as the answers to 1 through at least 4, if not 5. If you could fill this out during this presentation, I would really appreciate that. I will be collecting it before you leave this room today. I would really love to have these back and take them back. That would really help us. Okay, so when you go and you look at Atlas 15 and the brand new website, pilot website, again, it's 2 volumes. Volume 1 is estimates are based on historical observations and provide estimates up to the year 2023. Volume 2 are developed by applying adjustment factors to Volume 1, climate projections, future time periods as part of 2 distinct frameworks. So global warming level and emission scenarios, and you have the ability to choose between those. Some of this is reiterative, yes, that word. There is a handy-dandy technical report if somebody was very interested in the methodology for how this data was coalesced. But I will tell you that the NOAA Atlas 15 pilot covers a subset of storm durations of 1 hour to 10 days. When it's fully released, those data sets will be anywhere from 15 minutes up to more than 10 days. And annual exceedance probabilities from 50% to 1%, and additional durations and probabilities will be accounted for and available upon full release of the product. The pilot website, as I stated before, is not available right now for download, but that presents us with that unique opportunity. If you go to the pilot website right now, you're looking at things like this. This is really good. This is the first look at the structure of the NOAA Atlas 15 dataset over the state of Montana, and it's designed to collect feedback. Why Montana? Any ideas? Anybody here from Montana? Nobody here from Montana? Okay, me neither. Montana has a couple of things going for it the National Weather Service decided to use it for. One is it has a lot of geographic variability. You've got mountains, lakes, rivers, you've got all kinds of elevations, and then you also have different weather patterns as well, right? Sleet, snow, rain, periods of drought, and relative heat extremes for the area. Notice that you've got data available in different formats. You have maps, you have charts, you have tables, and you have estimates, all different ways of representing data. And as I think we were talking about yesterday and then some today, representing data visually is very impactful, especially if you're not a technical person like me. Not technical person. I appreciate maps. I appreciate the ability to change things and see what happens. So if you go to the first part of the website, sort of the upper left if you're looking at it, you can see here's Missoula, Montana, sort of in the center of the map on each of the maps. The left is a map of Volume 1, and the right is a map of Volume 2. There's also charts below the map, which I'll talk about in a minute. You can see those little slide charts where things are highlighted in blue or not. You can select a single location at a single time, and you can select that location either by putting coordinates in, or you can put the name of the town, or place. You can change the base of the map to be either topography, satellite, light or dark models, and you can change the opacity for estimates. The time series default for the pilot is the annual maximum series, and the precipitation type defaults to depth, but you can also choose intensity, which is interesting. Then default units are in English, but you can also use metric for those of us who are, sciencey. Both maps currently default to 50% annual exceedance probability and 60-minute durations, but you can change those options, and both maps will update accordingly. Both maps are in sync, and as you zoom in or out from one location to another, the other map will do that as well. And of course, to return to the overall view, you can just select home. The location search under the maps can be used to type in a specific place, town, or city. And above the Volume 1 map, on the right side of that map, there is an option to show stations, and that will populate the stations from where the data was gathered. So what does this look like in a chart? All right, I don't know if it's showing up very well because we've got a lot of light on, but there's actually a confidence interval that's in purple. I don't know if you can see it behind or around the sharper lines. 90% confidence levels, intervals, are what's on the pilot right now, but that will change to much higher variability once the entire product is released. The different curves correspond to current estimates and the projections under the 2-degree warming scenario. Okay. Also, we've got it in table form. Same data represented differently. Here's the pilot data, and of course, as I stated before, this should not be used in decision making at this point because Atlas 15 will continue to be refined, partly based on hopefully the feedback that you give today. All right, here on this next table, we've got additional projections from Volume 2 estimates with the selected framework added to the table as the last column. And that's pretty much the pilot as it exists right now. So if you could, and you haven't yet, could you take just a moment and fill in the rest of the questionnaire for me? Hopefully I did a good job of explaining what you would see. We talked about maybe doing a live demonstration, but with technology, the way it is, we didn't want to risk that. So these are just screenshots. I'm going to keep talking since we have just a few minutes, but to provide feedback for the development and the co-development, to put in anything you want, then this will be relayed back to the NWS National Weather Service developers of Atlas. There is a handy-dandy website with a dinosaur in the center of it. That is also on your card, so please feel free. Okay, that's the end of my presentation. Does anybody have questions? Yes, Dave.
Thank you. I have two questions. This is great. The first one is when you take a look at the data in the Atlas 15, those visualizations, can you export those visualizations or that data specifically as like a web service?
Great question. So yes, at this moment, you cannot export that data. Upon full release of everything in 2027, you can. But because you can't do it right now, that we're actually very interested in learning what kind of data files you would prefer to be. Would those be CSV, other data file kinds that, what would be the most useful for you? So that would be one thing that I would definitely either put on the questionnaire and or put on the website feedback. That would be great.
Great, thanks. My second question is, when you look at that like 2 degrees Celsius scenario and how much more precipitation could occur, do you have any linkages to some place like the National Water Center that produces flood inundation modeling layers so you can see what the impact of a 2 degree C rise would mean and this amount of precipitation? So maybe emergency managers, decision makers could say, okay, we're headed into a scenario now that looks like we're going to, this major road is going to be flooded 10 times a year as opposed to 1.
Right. Like that's an excellent point. We do want to make sure we've got links to, especially within NOAA, other similar things that would back up and support the kind of visualizations and data that we have here. Again, please put those ideas down. We would love to take them back. I know that there are plans to link some, but I'm not specifically aware of exactly which links we're doing.
One more bonus question.
Sure,
so,
as long as it's easy.
And I'm just thinking of scenarios in my mind. So
Sure.
could you use the Atlas 15 data and catalogs that are in there to say, all right, we have this weather system moving towards us, and here's the forecast for how much rain could fall over the next 24 to 36 hours.
Yes.
What will be the impact in our region?
Yes, you can, which once 2027 and the entire thing is released, yes, you should be able to do 15-minute increments and be able to project that into the future to help plan.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right, that's all the time I have. If you have other questions or want to talk to me about Atlas 15 or where I can find good barbecue, just come find me. I'm right here up at the front. Thank you so much.